Well, it is 7 o'clock and it is time for us to start our meeting tonight. I'm so excited and welcome to those of you who have decided to participate. I'm really excited to share with you shifting from surviving to thriving, shifting from surviving to thriving. I'm Reverend Stephanie Denise, and it's all about finding purpose within. We all have a purpose, and every now and then, life gets a little bit challenging as we're navigating life, and so we need uh, we need to come back and focus and understand that we can shift from surviving to thriving. So again, so excited. Go ahead and type in the chat where you are coming from. Exciting, exciting. Well, we have California. Excellent. We have California represented, and I hail from Northern California, originally from Seattle, Washington. So I am so excited to be a resident here in Northern California. I absolutely love the weather. The rain brought freshness and greenery, but I love the warmth of the California sun. So again, thank you for those of you who are here hailing from California. I'm Reverend Stephanie Denise. I'm going to start sharing. All right. Again, as I said, I am Reverend Stephanie Denise, and I'm just so excited to be here with you. There we go. And I am educated here in Northern California. I hold a Bachelor's of Arts degree, Bachelor's in Liberal Arts, and also a minor in African American Studies from Cal State Hayward, which is now Cal State East Bay, a multiple subject teaching credential, and a Master's of Divinity in Religious Studies from Pacific School of Religion that is in Berkeley, right behind Cal Berkeley. And currently I'm done with all of my classwork in a doctor of ministry, a DMin. My area of emphasis is public theology, which is God in public spaces, right? And so it's pretty exciting. So all of the doctoral coursework is done, and now it's just about finishing up the dissertation. So that's kind of my educational background. And I'm really excited. My experiences, I am an author of 21 Days of Faith. And so if you have not seen this book, 21 Days of Faith, Finding Your Purpose, really exciting. That book is on Amazon. That I was able to write that book in 2022. I've been a women's group facilitator for many years. And I was a teacher within the San Leandro Unified School District. Excuse me. Let me grab something to drink. In the San Leandro Unified School District for more than 20 years. And also, then I was able to teach in, excuse me, I don't know, all of a sudden I got a tickle in the Vallejo Unified School District, and licensed and ordained as a reverend in the African Methodist Episcopal Church. I also served as a senior pastor in the AME Church for 7 years, and so that was an exciting time. And my qualifications, curriculum development and implementation. I absolutely love writing, creating curriculum. and building rapport, not only with students, but building rapport with families, very important to me. And I have a strong background in working with diverse populations. All right. And I love to create inclusive learning environments. All right. So here we are tonight. We're shifting from surviving to thriving. Let's start with a little bit of an introduction. Go back. There we go. So just a little introduction. Um, I did write a book called 21 Days of Faith, Finding Your Purpose. I think that we all have a purpose, and I think that sometimes our purpose changes over time, and it's up to us to tap in and really figure out what is the universe calling us to do, right? We've been gifted with so many talents. And also, I like to look at how we can reinvent ourselves when we're going through these different life challenges that happen, right? So transitioning from surviving to thriving, we're going to look at some actionable steps that can help us in the midst of that. If you are having a challenge right now, just type in the chat maybe what your challenge is, and then tap in the chat thriving. All right, good. And it's really important to highlight the importance of self-care. And so we'll look at that. And we'll look at empowering women through entrepreneurship and how that can move us forward, how we can use our skills, right? Use our skills to move forward, and how we can have an impact, not only on ourselves, but impact on others. All right. So these are just some things that we'll touch on. I'm going to stop share for a moment. There we go. Excellent. All right, so go ahead and type in the chat the word thrive or thriving, because that's what we want to do. Perfect. Excuse me. So we want to move from surviving to thriving. We'll also look at other topics. We'll look at chapter 1, which is just an introduction, and that's kind of where we are tonight, right? Finding our purpose, thinking about how we can actually thrive. We'll be looking at reinventing ourselves. We'll spend more time talking about that tonight. And then we'll look at healing after divorce, right? Because sometimes that's one of our life challenges, is healing after divorce. Again, moving from surviving to thriving, and we just type thrive in the chat. We'll look at empowerment. Why don't you just take a moment and think about how you would like to be empowered, and type empowerment in the chat. Excellent, excellent. And not only do we want to be empowered, and then think about how entrepreneurship can actually be a tool for empowerment, right? It could be a tool for spreading positivity. It could be a tool for taking us out of our comfort zone so that we can move forward and, live the purpose that the Creator called for us. Now, we'll also look at chapter 6, and that is next steps, right? So that's next steps, and that's resources that can provide a roadmap for where we go from here, right? So go ahead and type in the chat next steps. All right, good, excellent, excellent. And that's what we want to do. When we're shifting, we want to make sure that we are moving forward and that we have those next steps. I want to start with motherhood, right? That motherhood transition. That's a big one, right? That's a big one. And you may or may not be a mother. Um, you might just be in a space and time where you feel like you need to reinvent yourself, right? And that happens, right? And women of a certain age or women who have been on their jobs for a really long time, or women who are just feeling like the way that they're showing up in the world is not gaining the respect or garnering the respect that they deserve, right? And so that's really important. But I'm going to back up back to the motherhood transition. So I'm going to share my screen again. I'm learning so much here. Okay. All right. So we already looked at that. Just a recap. There we go. So motherhood can be all consuming, right? When we think about raising children, it takes and it demands immense time, immense energy, and often our personal needs take a back seat, right? And that's not acceptable. But as mothers, that's what we do. We take a back seat to what needs to be done. But then there's the flip side of it is that our children grow and they don't have the same needs that they had in the beginning, right? So they become independent and we want them to become independent. We want them to be productive citizens in society, right? And so we need our children to be independent. But as kids grow, we as mothers face a shift in what the daily responsibilities are, what the routines are. I know that I have three children and they are adults. One will be a senior in college, right? And she's at USF. And then I have twins, a boy and a girl, and they will be entering into their junior years, right, of college. And they've lived on campus, I should say, their whole time in college, right? So not only did my children go to college, but I became an empty nester. And not only did I become an empty nester, at the same time, my husband at the time moved to Africa, right? So truly an empty nester, right? And dealing with that. And how do I go from taking the kids to their appointments, taking kids to their sports activities, driving the kids here and there, to the kids driving themselves, to the kids having their own cars, to the kids living away from home, right? So children's independence really affects us because we're so used to being there for them in every way. Identity crisis. Oh my gosh, if I don't have the title of mother, if I don't have the title of wife, if I don't have the title of CEO, if I don't have the title of daughter, if I don't have these titles anymore, then what happens, right? And especially that title of mother, right? Because with children needing less, oftentimes women struggle to redefine their purpose, right? What is my purpose beyond motherhood? What should I be doing past motherhood, right? And so that's a really big one to just look at. How do we reinvent ourselves? Oh, I'm going to back up for a minute, back up to this one, reinventing ourselves. And I want to stay there for just a minute. And what I want to talk about there is there are successful women. There are successful women who have reinvented themselves, and there are many things that they have done to achieve that. And if they've done that, we can do that also. And when I think about that, there's so many times when we get to this stage, we're not sure exactly what we need to do. Excuse me. In my family, there's a recurring theme that most of my aunts have two sets of kids, right? They have they have their first set, and when that first set becomes of age 18, 19, 20, they start all over again. Another thing that is very that often recurs in my family is not only two sets of children, but also many times, if they don't have two sets of children, then they find themselves going back to school and changing careers, right? And so that's part of that reinventing yourself, right? So just because you started out doing one thing, that doesn't mean that that's going to be that your whole identity is tied up in that and that that's going to be your purpose forever. So I don't know if you know Viola Davis, right? But Viola Davis is a famous actress, right? And she began her career as a stage actress. And then she later, oh, that was interesting. Let me stop the share for just a second. Okay, there we go. Okay, that was Siri. Siri asked us a question. She said she didn't get that. All right, good. So I wanted to talk about reinventing ourselves. So we're back again. Here we go. So I want you to type in the chat reinventing myself. And I want you to think about that. I want you to think about reinventing yourself. What does that even look like? Right? What does that even look like? So I just want to talk to you for a minute. So I was talking about Viola Davis before Siri interrupted. And one thing about her, she transitioned to film and television, right? She reinvented herself by starting to take on really diverse roles and really challenging roles, right? That showcased her talent in a different way and gave a greater range of talent. And it wasn't easy, right? Because she truly challenged herself. She challenged the stereotypes that were set out there. She challenged the status quo. But in her challenging that, she ultimately won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, right? And so sometimes we have to step out of our comfort zone, and it's not easy, right? And we have to step out of what we think society wants for us. We have to look at a bigger role that we can play in life and not just the narrow roles that society has formed for us, right? Let's think of another person who has reinvented themselves in these later years, right? Michelle Obama, right? Michelle Obama, a lawyer, author, former first lady, right, of the United States. Well, right now, she's using her platform in a new way, right? Best-selling memoir, Becoming, right? Which was inspired by her life and becoming Michelle Obama. But not only was it inspired by the things and challenges and life that she's lived, previously, but now she's inspiring millions around the world, right? Because we are always becoming something. It's up to us to move from that survival to thriving and understand that it is a process of becoming. Excuse me. All right, another person I want to look at, Mindy Kaling. I don't know if you guys are really familiar with Mindy Kaling, yet another actress, but she's a writer, she's a producer, she's a director, and she is known for her work on The Office. My oldest daughter loves The Office, right? She loves the humor of The Office. She loves the writing, the comedic writing of The Office. And so that's how I became familiar with Mindy. But the thing about Mindy, she also is a part of the Mindy Project. And what she had to do is she had to take time, she had to reinvent herself. How? She had to launch her own um, she had to launch her own successful projects, right? Because she's a Southeast Asian woman in Hollywood. And so there weren't the right projects for her. So not only did she advocate for representation, right? Because sometimes we have to do that. We have to step out of our comfort zone and we have to advocate, right? Advocate for our success, advocate for our right to be present, advocate for our right to be there. And so she had to advocate for representation and diversity in the entertainment industry. But in doing so, she created and starred in her own projects, right? And so that helped to break barriers, especially for other South Asian women who are in Hollywood, right? So those are just a few people. When you talk about reinventing yourself, also I just want to list a couple of books for you. My Beloved World. That's by Sonia Sotomayor. This is a memoir, right? First Latina, first Latina Supreme Court Justice. And so that particular book, right, it explores her journey. So sometimes we don't have enough faith for ourselves. Sometimes when we're in that survival mode, we can't see the opportunities that are before us. We can't see that there's so much that is ahead of us, right? We're so stuck in looking at what is in our immediate vicinity, right? But this is a time when you're talking about moving to thriving, you have to shift your mindset. You have to shift forward to what you see for yourself. And you have to see bigger for yourself than the box that you're currently in. So this particular book, My Beloved World by Sonia Sotomayor, memoir, again, first Latina Supreme Court justice in the US, right? And it talks about her journey from a Bronx housing project to the highest court in the land, right? So you understand that was a big journey, but the underlining thought of the particular story is resilience. Type in the chat resilience, right? Because if you're going to move from surviving to thriving, you have to have resilience. Go ahead and type that in the chat. Resilience. Good. All right, good. Yep, resilient. You have to have resilience. So definitely to be able to move forward. All right. And also in there, it talks about overcoming obstacles, right? You may have some obstacles that have been standing in your way, but as you reinvent yourself, it's time to step over those obstacles, kick through those obstacles, whatever you have to do, right? But a part of that is shifting your mind forward so that you can do so. Another great book, and it's also a movie now, is the book Hidden Figures, and that's by Margot Lee Shetterly. And it's a nonfiction book, right? But it tells about that journey. African American female mathematicians. How smart do you have to be a mathematician, right? Genius level. But they played a crucial role in the early years of the U.S. space program. That's huge, right? So that shines light on their contributions and again, resilience. Type that in the chat again. Resilience. All right, good. Excellent. You have to be resilient, right? We've typed that in the chat 2 times, right? Why? Because part of going from a surviving, a lack, a stuck feeling mindset to a thriving mindset, you have to be resilient, right? And you have to know that you will get there, right? Your contributions that you've made so far in life are not going unnoticed. And if they're going unnoticed, you know you know that you've done those things, right? So it might take you sitting down and just making a list of some of the great contributions that you've made, right? Don't sell yourself short. You have greatness within you, and you just have to tap into that greatness again, right? You let the things of life get in the way and block out the greatness that is within you. All right. And so these are just a couple of books uh, and a couple of women who have reinvented themselves. And I know that you too can do the same thing. Right now, there's other things that have been that may stand in your way of moving forward, right? Healing after divorce is so important, right? Divorce is life changing. It's shattering. It causes us to be at a place of standstill. Much of the time is spent wondering what happened, what led up to this, what did I do, what was my part in it, can this even be rectified? But many times of divorce is just that it's a break, right? It's like a death. But the worst part about it is that it's a death, but the other party is still living, right? And so you have to really, really grapple with that situation. I'm going to go back to share. All right. So we went all the way back. We went all the way back to reinventing ourselves, right? And here we go. Healing after divorce. So important. Emotional turmoil, right? If you've been through a divorce, I'm sorry, I've been through one. As a matter of fact, my divorce was just finalized June 21st, right? June 21st. Today is July 8th. So that was very, very, very recently, right? And so I understand healing after a divorce very well. I had an international divorce. My ex-husband moved to Rwanda, Africa. It took 2 years of our life, but we're divorced. And the blessing in it is that our kids had a wonderful father. I had a wonderful marriage, but my ex was done with living in America. And I was not ready to relocate to Africa, right? Even though my twins are 19 and my other daughter is soon to be 21, it just didn't feel like the time to leave, right? So emotional turmoil, a whirlwind a whirlwind of emotions, grief, anger, fear of the unknown, uncertainty, right? There's my timer. Timer just went off to let me know we have about 30 more minutes. Uncertainty. I think that that's one of the hardest things, even about life, right? Not knowing what comes next, not knowing sometimes what to do next, and sometimes letting that paralyze us and help and causing us to stand still, right? Women must be able to reconnect with their individual identity. And that's their identity outside of the marriage context, right? We just talked about reinventing yourself, so reinventing ourselves. Now, that's very, very important because sometimes we lose the title of mother, or if we don't lose the title of mother, we don't feel as needed or as valued in the mother role, right? So there's a shift. And then if we actually go through a divorce, right, we don't have that title of wife anymore. So then what do we do in the midst of that, right? If I no longer have that title, there's a lot that comes wrapped up in the title of wife, right? Uh, if you're a wife and then you're no longer married, then you grab a new title, single mother, right? And single mother has sometimes negative connotations. So as women, we have to reconnect with our individual identity. Who am I? Who am I? Type who am I in the chat. Who am I? Something to really look at, right? When you strip away everything, when you strip away all the titles, when you strip away wife, when you strip away mother, when you strip away daughter, when you strip away friend, when you strip away boss, when you strip away employee, right? When you strip away those titles, who are you at your core? What are the things that make your heart sing? What are the things that make you happy? What are the things that bring you joy? What are the things that you do or did that you no longer do anymore because as a mother you didn't have time, or because as a wife it would have been frowned upon, right? So we have to look at what is our, excuse me, what is our identity? New directions, right? Finding a fresh sense of purpose, so important. One of the things that happened in my life is my children, my youngest children, my twins graduated from high school. The next day, my husband left to Rwanda, right? And so instantly that relationship was over as we had known it. And then those same children, um, a month and a half later, moved away to go to college, right? So empty nester instantly, no husband instantly. I had to find a fresh sense of purpose and fulfillment. So when we talk about uncertainty, filled with so much uncertainty, not knowing what am I going to do next, feeling like I was vulnerable, feeling like I had no idea of how I was going to navigate my next steps. But one of the things that I remember that I was good at and that I remember that I loved was teaching, teaching in the classroom, being with the children, right? And so when you talk about new directions or finding a fresh sense of purpose, I was able to go back into the classroom. I had been out of the classroom. I had retired myself from the classroom with real estate investing, right? So I had been out of the classroom for 5 years. But this new direction or this new season caused me to find something that was familiar, something that I was good at, something that I actually loved, right? But because I was raising my children, I wanted more time with them because I knew that they would be growing up and I knew that they would be leaving the nest soon. And so I was able to go back into the classroom. Not only was it a blessing for me, not only did it give me a fresh sense of purpose and fulfillment, but it also became crucial for me moving forward. Why? Because teaching the kids, right? That helps you move forward. You have to take the kids from A to Z, right? Because and I love to teach fifth grade, right? So it's really important because I'm getting those kids ready for their next transition, right? They have fear of the unknown. They have uncertainty because they're leaving elementary and moving on to middle school. So these are some things that you have to do. You have to create a fresh sense of purpose. Go ahead and type purpose into the chat. Go ahead and type purpose into the chat. Okay, great. All right, let's keep going. So again, we're here because we want to transition. You want to transition. We want to transition from thriving to surviving. Very, very, very important. So as we start to look at thriving to surviving, um, it's transformational. The journey has to be transformational, right? So it's going to require some intention. It's going to require us to have some mindset shifts, right? I'm going to stop the share for a minute because I really want to talk about this. So important. Mindset shifts. Wow. What are you thinking about, right? When you're transitioning from surviving to thriving, it has to be intentional. What are your intentions? What intentions have you set for yourself? Are you just waking up and going every day flying by the seat of your pants, right? Are you winging it? Because when we want to go to a life of thriving, it's not about winging it. It's about being intentional. And you can do it, right? It's about being intentional. It's about having an intentional mindset so that you can shift, right? Type in the chat intentional, intentional. Think about what can you be intentional about. And when you're intentional, you also employ actionable steps, right? So not only are you setting your intention, but you're setting your intention and you have actionable steps, right? So part of that is commitment to self-care, right? When we're down, when we're in survival mode, right? Sometimes it's a woe is me. I can't believe this happened to me. I can't face tomorrow. My life is ruined. But that's not going to work. That's not healthy, that's not beneficial, and there's no thriving in that, right? So it's about being intentional. This happened to me. I don't like that it happened to me. I accept that it happened, and now I have to take the lesson out of what happened. Take the lesson, type in the chat, lesson. Good, thank you. Lesson. Good. So you have to take the lesson out of the unfortunate thing that happened. You have to take the lesson out of the change or the shift that has happened, right? You have to take the lesson out of the loss that has happened, right? And then you have to work on personal development. You have to make a choice to personally develop. Okay. Personal development, make the choice, right? So when you think about that, you have to explore what your path is, right? Thriving. How do I thrive after divorce, right? Money is an issue, right? Now there's one income, not two. Oh, does that mean that I have to get a second job? Does that mean that I get creative? Does that mean that the hobby that I've been working on now, I'm going to turn that hobby into an entrepreneurship venture? Right? What does that mean? Right? Because there are some things that you're going to have to do. There are some ways that you're going to have to shift, right? And then you have to focus on things that are practical strategies, right? What can I do that is actually practical, right? Right. What can I do that actually would make sense, right? We already talked about you have to shift your mindset, but you have to be intentional about what the outcome you would like. Now, sometimes we don't know all the steps and how to get to that outcome, but we at least have to shift our mind and think about that outcome that we would like, right? So that's in our mindset. And then think about some strategies. What are some things that you can employ, right, that will help you to get to that place, right? So you have to cultivate this thriving mindset. You don't have to be in lack. You don't have to be in scarcity. Yes, now you're down to one income. Yes, now your children have gone off to college and you have extra expenses because no, they're not in the house and you don't have a large grocery bill and a large PG&E or heating bill or light bill, but you do have to help them, with college expenses, right? So there are these changes, and that's part of life, right? Life is a journey. Life is a journey. So on that journey, we have to shift, right? Everything is not always going to be the way it was. We would love that sometimes, right? We love the familiar sometimes, but those times of uncertainty are the times when we grow. Those are the times when we can be creative, right? In those times of uncertainty, right? Even if you look at economic downturns that we've had, right? If you think about many of the economic downturns, even though it's been hard for some people and there's been a recession for some people, there are other people who have thrived in the midst of those economic downturns, right? And so we want to be those people who thrive in the midst of those economic downturns. Currently, I have a house that I'm selling, and that particular house that was bought during the recession, 2009. That house was bought for only $46,000, right? That house is going to sell for well over $500,000 in this time, right? So that's 2009 to 2024, right? So when some people were having the worst times of their lives in 2009, 2008, right, with that recession. Other people were setting up for their future. So how are you going to look at this season that's happening for you, right? I just talked about things that have happened for me, and there's a few more, right? These last 2 years have been incredible, incredible as far as change, right? Things have happened that I could have never imagined would happen, but yet and still, we're still thriving. And so you have to cultivate that thriving mindset. That's the first thing, right? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? What are you reading? What are you watching? Right? Think about what you put in, right? What you put in is so important. I'm going to go back to share my screen. There we go. Thank you guys for being patient with me. I'm learning. There we go. Ah. All right. So we just talked a little bit about that. Cultivating a thriving mindset. So important. All right. I want you to type in the chat mindset. Mindset. What are you thinking about? Right. So now's the time to embrace growth while shifting your perspective from seeing challenges as obstacles to viewing them as opportunities for growth and learning. So important. What can you do to move along your growth and your learning, right? I always say that I am a lifelong learner, lifelong learner. Very important, right? Because what I know up to this point is great, but there are a lot of things that I know that I don't know. And so it's time for me to challenge myself to learn even more, right? So embrace growth while shifting your perspective from seeing challenges as obstacles to viewing them as opportunities for growth and learning. And then also take your time, embrace the change, right? See every setback as a stepping stone toward a brighter future, right? When I think about my children, for instance, being an empty nester, woo, that felt like a setback, right? Because I was used to having my babies around and then they were off to college. But now I can see that it's a brighter future, right? They're getting ready to be juniors and seniors in college, and they're thriving and they're doing well, right? And so sometimes it means that we have to let go. We have to let go of what was so that we can embrace the newness of what is. And gratitude. Gratitude is so important. So not only shifting your mindset, but having gratitude, being grateful. So important. Cultivate a mindset of gratitude by focusing on the positive aspects of your life, even in difficult times, right? Even in difficult times. I talked earlier about my ex-husband going to Rwanda, Africa. But you know what? He is having the time of his life. He is living the life of his dreams, right? And so, even though it was a difficult time, when I look back, I can look at our children who are thriving. And a big reason why they're thriving is because he taught them independence, right? He taught them not to be scared, to move forward, to try new things, to experience new things, whether it be something as simple as us being at a restaurant and two or three of the kids ordering the same thing. He'd say, oh, no, why don't you guys, you can order anything you want, but why don't you guys try different things? And then each of you can have a bite or a taste of the others and compare, right? Instead of just doing what going along with what everyone else is doing, right? And so I'm grateful for that. Have gratitude even in the difficult times, right? Expressing gratitude can shift your perspective, right? Instead of feeling like, oh, woe is me. I just can't. You can and you will, right? So definitely being grateful. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but have a gratitude journal. Have it right by your bed. When you get up in the morning, three things you're grateful for. Before you go to bed at night, three things you're grateful for. And when you're having a not so good day or a challenging day, pick up that journal and look at those things that you said you were grateful for. You know, the things that we track in our life grow. So let's track gratitude. Let's track things to be grateful for. Expressing gratitude will shift your perspective and it will help you to be able to see abundance in every single day. And part of thriving is to understand that abundance is your birthright. Abundance is your birthright. Type that in the chat. Abundance is my birthright. All right, we're going to try to wrap this up. Excuse me. I don't know. I've been dealing with allergies, but I'm even grateful for those, right? Because it could be a lot worse. Setting set empowerment goals for yourself. How can you be empowered? What can you do that will empower you? And then define those goals, right? It might be something, a simple thing like self-care. It might be a new haircut. It might be a new hairstyle. It might be a new dress. It might be something outside of yourself, but also look for things within yourself that will help you to feel and be empowered, like meditation. Meditate on the good things, right? Prayer. Prayer is so important. And meditation. Think about those things, definitely. And then define some clear goals that align with your values and your aspirations. Values. What do you value? What's important to you? This is the time, right? You're moving from surviving to thriving. So now is the time for you to look at what your values are. What is important to you? So one of the things I always say, God first, family second, career third, right? That's part of my value system. God first, family second, career third, right? And so and because of that, that's what my compass is when I make decisions, when I do the things I do. Even being here with my children has been so valuable, so important. One of the things that I didn't speak about, and sometimes I do speak about, is that um, my children went to college, right? And right after October, October of that same year, October of the year of my ex leaving, October of the year my children started their freshman year of college, and my other daughter started her sophomore year of college, my father unexpectedly passed away. Whoa, wasn't ready for that. Wasn't ready for that at all. But because my values are God first, family second, career third, I was here. I was here in the US. I was here and I was able to be there for my family, for my children, for my mother. I'm an only child. So I was able to be there for her. I was able to be there for my grandmother, right? Who that was her favorite son-in-law, and so that was a big loss. So think about what your values are. Think about those values, right? And then I want you to start breaking down your thoughts into actionable steps and then celebrating when you achieve your milestones, right? No matter how big, no matter how small. Maybe one of the things you decided you want to do is you want to get in shape. So you get up in the morning, you put on your shoes, and you go out for your morning walk. I love that. Go out for your morning walk. You're hearing the birds, you're hearing nature, you're getting the fresh air. Celebrate that. Celebrate that. That's a step towards thriving, right? No matter how big or how small. All right. So there's so many other topics that we could talk about, right? Career burnout is one. I talked about I talked about teaching and I talked about absolutely loving teaching in the elementary school. And I talked about going back and not being purpose in the midst of an uncertain time. But there was a season when I had dealt with career burnout, and many people deal with career burnout. And especially, where if you're a person of a certain age and you've been doing the same thing for a long time, right? Sometimes, we hit that overwhelm, right? And then there's too much pressure, right? Trying to balance everything, trying to balance work, trying to balance family, trying to balance our personal life. All of that can be mentally and physically exhausting. That's why self-care is so important in the midst of this, right? And sometimes, when we're trying to balance all of that, some type of trauma or tragic situation occurs that's like one more thing, right? That just puts us over the edge. And so think about when you lose passion for something, it makes it very much unbearable. There was a season where I had lost passion for what I was doing. And part of that is because I had teenage children who were playing travel softball, who were playing travel basketball, who were involved in dramatic arts, right? And they needed to be here, they needed to be there. They had a lot of needs. Teen that going through puberty, all of these things were happening, right? And so I had to be there for them. I had a mother-in-law who was sick and who was passing, right? All of these things were happening. And I couldn't, or felt like I couldn't juggle the responsibilities, right? Of all of that. Like I needed to be closer to home. I needed to be closer to my family. Remember, I said God, family, career, right? And so that loss of passion was there. And I knew I needed to do something different. And real estate investing gave me that opportunity. And I also went back to school and got a real estate license, right? Which was not needed for investing, but which was a challenge and something I always wanted to do. And that was exciting. And I was glad that I did it because during 2020, I got the real estate license in 2019, and I bought my first real estate investment property in 2017, right? So during 2020, relying on real estate was a true blessing, a true blessing, right? So you're going to have a desire for change. That's natural, especially when you're going through a lot, right? Women always seek ways to reignite their passion and find renewed purpose in their work. So part of moving from that survival to thriving is really taking the time and thinking about what is it that fires me up? What am I passionate about, right? And when you can make a list, as a matter of fact, write in the chat, passion, right? What are you passionate about? Start listing some things. Like my family knows I was like HGTV queen, right? And tiny houses, I love to watch tiny houses. Fix and flip, love to watch fix and flip. And this is years before I ever was a real estate investor, right? But HGTV, fix and flip. I also I loved when they would buy homes sight unseen on the interior, right? But just make a bid at an auction, buy the homes, and then fix those houses up, right? And then that's exactly what I started to do. When I lost passion in the classroom, I found passion in real estate. So think about ways to reignite your passion, right? Think about what is your natural bent? What have you always done, right? And then see if that helps you to find that renewed purpose. Okay. And we're just gonna start wrapping up, but entrepreneurship. I can't tell you how much I love being an entrepreneur, right? Discovering purpose and finding your true calling, right? That gives you a clarity and a direction that is wonderful in uncertain times, right? So if you're worried about the finances, keep doing your day job and build your entrepreneurship business on the side, right? You can do that. Take control. You could do it. You have everything in you that it takes to take control, right? If it's starting a business, if it's following your passions, if it's creating life on your own terms, right? If you no longer have to worry about doing everything for your children because they are now adults, if you don't have to worry about doing everything for a spouse who may no longer be there, if you don't have to worry about being a caregiver for an aging parent because they've passed on, then guess what? You have time to create life on your own terms, and you deserve to create life on your own terms, right? And that's where the growth is going to come. Growth in your entrepreneurship fosters skill development. And maybe you don't want to be an entrepreneur, and that's fine. But learn something new. I just spoke about being a lifelong learner. So important because you gain new skills, creativity, and financial independence are yours, right? So this is an exercise that I'd love you to do. List three things that make you feel like you are just surviving daily. Three things. You can put them in the chat. Three things. Take a moment. Three things that make you feel like you're just surviving. Okay. And if you don't finish that right now, because we're wrapping up, you can go ahead and do that tonight, right? I talked about getting your gratitude journal. So this is part of those steps, right? Those three steps. List the three things that make you feel like you're just surviving. Also, list three things that you think might help you to move to thriving. What are those three things? Take a moment. You can list them in the chat. Also list them into your gratitude journal that you're going to get. Very important, right? Writing down your intentions, very important. Writing down your intentions and reading over your intentions when you wake up in the morning and when you go to bed at night. So key. Okay. And so three immediate steps, right, to move from just surviving to thriving. Mindfulness, right? So you're going to get your gratitude, you're going to get your gratitude journal, right? You're going to, when you wake up in the morning, you're going to be mindful, you're going to be grateful, you're going to be thankful, right? And maybe you'll start off with prayer or just taking a moment to be thankful and have gratitude for things in your life, right? So mindfulness, meditation, prayer, all of that centers yourself. And as you cultivate gratitude, you will start that you'll see that you'll start shifting, right? And this can help you shift your mindset toward positivity and abundance. Physical activity, you got to move, right? You got to move. Incorporate physical activity into your routine. Morning walk, yoga, strength training, right? It's going to boost your physical health and it's going to improve your mood and your well-being, your mental well-being. And number three, eating habits, healthy eating habits. So important. Focus on nourishing your body with whole nutrient-rich foods. Make small changes like adding more fruits, vegetables, and stay hydrated. Drink lots of water, right? So those are three things that you could do today that will definitely help you, right? And so as you think about that, also, if you feel like you need more coaching, if you feel like you need a little bit more one-on-one, that's fine. I love to do that. We have a cohort that is starting on July 27th. We meet on Zoom Saturday mornings from 9 to 10. It's a 7 week and it's just $397. So if that's something you'd be interested in, definitely go to my website, revstephaniedenise.com, and you can register there. Also, more of these excuse me, more of these action steps you will find there. Think about creating your daily routine, daily schedule that includes time for the action steps that we talked about previously, right? and go to online resources, right? Again, you can go to my online resource, revstephaniedenise.com, and find things that can help. Or you can also go to other apps on the website where you can find meditations, where you can find workout routines, where you can find healthy recipes, where you can find self-care tips. I love Calm. Calm is a great one. Calm is a great resource. Okay. And then continue to join community groups, right? Being in community, this is not the time to be alone, right? I talked about being an empty nester, right? Being by myself and going back into the classroom, which gave me a built-in community in the classroom and a built-in community with my co-teachers, right? So very important in this time. And if you need professional support, there's no shame in that. Think about who can you call, right? Therapy is very important, right? There are people who have the guidance, have the tools, have strategies that can help with specific needs. So know that that is an area, right? And remember, small, consistent steps toward positive change will lead to significant transformations, right? Let me say that again. Small steps. Type that in the chat. Small steps, right? Small steps towards positive change will lead to significant transformations. You understand? So celebrate your progress along the way. Be kind to yourself as you navigate this journey toward thriving, right? And again, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. We're just at 8 o'clock. Thank you for taking the time. Feel free to check out my YouTube channel, which is growing. Check out my Facebook and Instagram, as well as go to revstephanie.com if you're interested in our 7-week cohort that meets on Saturday mornings from 9 to 10 and register for that masterclass cohort. All right. Make it a great, great day and know that you can thrive. It's your time to walk in faith, find your purpose, and know that abundance will follow. Thank you.